All right, welcome. We're about to dive into one of the most amazing, most fundamental processes on the entire planet, photosynthesis. It's kind of like this silent green magic that powers pretty much all life, and today we're going to crack the code together.
So have you ever really, truly stopped to think about that? How on earth does a plant, whether it's the little succulent on your desk or a giant sequoia tree, make its own food? It seems impossible, doesn't it? Just taking sunlight, air, and some water and building itself from practically nothing. Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain on that incredible magic trick.
To make this super easy to wrap our heads around, let's use a little analogy. I want you to think of a plant, not just as a plant, but as a world-class Michelin star chef. And like any great chef, it has a very specific recipe that it follows perfectly, day in and day out.
And here's that recipe, basically. First, the chef has to gather its ingredients. Sunlight for energy, carbon dioxide from the air, and of course water from the soil. The kitchen where all the magic happens? That's the leaf. And what about the final dishes it serves up? Two amazing things: sugar, which is the plant's food, and oxygen, which is a pretty nice little gift for the rest of us, right?
Okay, let's get into it. Part 1, we're going inside nature's ultimate food factory. It's time to crack the code.
So, at the very heart of all this culinary genius is a single chemical equation. Now, I know, it might look a little intimidating at first, but don't worry. We're going to build it piece by piece, and you'll see it's actually pretty straightforward.
Here's the thing. It all starts with the ingredients. On the left side of our recipe, we have 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. That's CO2, which the plant just pulls right out of the air. And we have 6 molecules of water. That's H2O, which it soaks up through its roots. These are the raw materials for our chef. Now, you can't cook without heat, can you? For our plant chef, the energy source is sunlight. That's the spark. It provides the power that gets this whole chemical reaction moving. Just think of it like the flame under the cooking pot. And here we are, the final result. All those ingredients, supercharged by light energy, are totally transformed into 2 products. First up, we get 1 molecule of C₆H₁₂O₆. You probably know it as glucose. That's the sugar, the plant's actual food. And second, we get 6 molecules of oxygen, which get released back into the air. That's literally the air we're all breathing this very second. So, we know the recipe, right? But where exactly is the kitchen? Let's take a little journey, deep inside the plant's green engine. Our journey starts with something we all recognize: the leaf. It's perfectly designed for this job, you know? It's usually broad and flat, basically acting like a giant solar panel, trying to catch as much sunlight as it possibly can. But if we were to take out a super-powered magnifying glass and zoom in, and I mean way in, deep inside the cells of that leaf, we'd find that it's packed with millions of even smaller, more specialized little solar panels. And there they are. These little green organelles are called chloroplasts. Now listen carefully. This is crucial. This is the actual kitchen. The chloroplast is the tiny microscopic factory where every single step of photosynthesis happens. You know what's interesting? It's how this little kitchen is organized. Inside each chloroplast, there are 2 main workstations. First, you've got the thylakoids. They look like little stacks of green coins. Think of this as the stovetop, where all the sunlight is captured. And then you have the stroma, which is the thick fluid all around them. That's like the prep counter, where the sugar is actually put together. Okay, so now we get to the process itself, which happens in 2 distinct acts. First up, Act 1, using sunlight. This is also known as the light-dependent reaction. Let me break this down. So step 1, sunlight slams into the green pigment called chlorophyll, which gets totally energized. Step 2, all that energy is then used to literally rip water molecules apart, and this is the exact moment that oxygen is released for us to breathe. And finally, steps 3 and 4, that solar energy is captured and stored in 2 special molecules. Think of ATP as tiny rechargeable batteries, and NADPH as little energy delivery trucks, all loaded up and ready to haul that power over to Act 2. And that brings us to Act 2, making the sugar. This part is called the Calvin cycle. Now, it doesn't need light directly to work, but it is completely dependent on the energy that was just delivered from Act 1. So what's going on here? First, the plant grabs carbon dioxide from the air. Then, guess who shows up? Our ATP batteries and our NADPH delivery trucks from Act 1. They arrive, they drop off all their energy, and that energy is what powers the conversion of CO2 into a simple sugar. And for the final step, the plant combines 2 of those simple sugars to make 1 molecule of glucose. And there you have it.
the meal is served.
This chart gives a great side-by-side look. As you can see, Act 1, the light reaction, happens in the thylakoids, our stovetop. It takes in sunlight and water, and what comes out is oxygen and our little energy packets. Then Act 2, which is sometimes called the dark reaction, happens in the stroma, the prep counter. It takes in CO2 and those energy packets, and the final product is our sugar, glucose. Two separate but perfectly connected assembly lines.
So I know what you might be thinking. Okay, this is a cool little process inside a leaf, but why does this matter to me? Well, let's zoom back out and see how this tiny, tiny engine actually powers our entire world. I mean, just really think about this for a second. The oxygen in the very breath you just took, it was produced by this process. The energy in almost every single thing you eat started out as sunlight captured by a plant. Photosynthesis also acts as the planet's lungs, pulling huge amounts of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, helping to regulate our climate. It is, and this is no exaggeration, the absolute foundation of all life as we know.
So let's put it all together one last time in one single shot. Sunlight and water go into the thylakoids for Act 1. Out comes oxygen and our energy packets, ATP and NADPH. Those packets then travel over to the stroma to power Act 2, the Calvin cycle, which takes in carbon dioxide and uses all that energy to build sugar. It's a perfect, self-contained, and unbelievably efficient little factory.
And that brings us to one last, kind of provocative thought. If plants are the master chefs of the world, tirelessly preparing the food and the very air that sustains this entire planet, what does that make us? I suppose it makes us the very, very lucky guests at a global banquet, one that's powered entirely by the quiet, constant green work happening all around us. Definitely something to think about.